I've always been dumped because I'm not good with words. Because of that, I stayed single until I was 35 and couldn't get married. Then I met Lisa, who was 5 years younger than me. She was assigned to the sales support department where I work as a temporary employee. She's a bright woman with a lovely smile, always treating me kindly even though I'm not good at making jokes. As I was teaching her the job, I started to take an interest in her and became more and more attracted to her. It was the first time I had felt this way, and I had never been treated so kindly by a woman before. I pursued her relentlessly. And finally, we started dating. Lisa was divorced with a 10-year-old daughter, Amy. I told my parents that I was dating her with the intention of marrying her, and although they were worried about me becoming a stepfather, I was determined. I told them there was no one as wonderful as her, and I was sure we would have a happy family together. I had met Amy before we got married, and fortunately, she has really warmed up to me now. And so we got married and started living happily together as a family of 3. Lisa and I decided not to have any more children. Since I was just a regular employee, I couldn't afford to raise many kids, and I thought having one daughter was enough. Our life wasn't rich, but we were happy. Every day, when I come home, my wonderful wife, with the best smile, and my adorable daughter are waiting for me. Just thinking about that gave me the strength to work hard. Then, one day, tragedy struck. It happened 4 years after I married Lisa. She passed away due to an illness. By the time the symptoms showed, it was too late for treatment. Her condition deteriorated rapidly. During her hospitalization, Amy always stayed cheerful and did her best. We started cooking together every day, planning to throw a big party with all of her favorite dishes when her mom came home from the hospital. We believed she would get better. We managed to keep going, just the 2 of us. Several months after Lisa's hospitalization, when Amy and I had just started to get used to life on our own, it happened. That day, I bought some roses, her favorite flowers, to cheer her up at the hospital. I hoped that showing her the beautiful flowers would cheer her up, even if just a little. But when I arrived, her condition had worsened critically, and she passed away soon after. Suddenly, Amy and I were left alone, stunned. What's going to happen now? I was really worried. And so began my life with just Amy and me. At that time, Amy was in her 2nd year of middle school. It was a difficult period for us. At first, Amy and I were living a normal life, but after a while, I noticed something was off with her. She started to act out against me. I thought it was just a phase at first, but there was a reason behind it. Turns out, Amy was being harassed by her classmates at school. I found out when I happened to see her belongings. Her notebook was filled with hurtful words. Words like "poor girl" from a single father home and middle schooler living with a non-blood related old man were written there. I immediately reported the harassment to the school, but that only made things worse for Amy. She began to treat me even more harshly. Even so, I continued to love her as my own daughter, but my feelings never seemed to reach her. When Amy went to high school, she attended a different school from her classmates, and the harassment stopped. However, she remained cold towards me. Gradually, she started going out at night, and when I tried to talk to her about it, she would throw tantrums or yell at me. Then, as soon as she graduated from high school, Amy left home. She only said, "I'm going to live with my boyfriend, I'll be fine on my own," took her stuff, and left. After that, she rarely answered her phone, and I only occasionally received emails saying she was doing fine. 3 years passed in the blink of an eye, just like that. During that time, Amy never once came back home. Then one day, I was ordered to go to a client's office in a different region. It was a 2-day business trip. After finishing my work for the day, it was already late afternoon. I thought about having a drink back at the hotel. I bought a can of beer and some snacks at a convenience store near my hotel. On my way back, I was lured by a delicious smell. Oh, is that a hot dog stall? Maybe I'll buy one. Excuse me, can I get one hot dog? Yes, thank you. That's when I saw something shocking. The woman making hot dog in front of me was my daughter, Amy. Amy, what are you doing here? Dad. Amy looked thin, and her hair was unkempt. After a moment of surprise, she looked down and said with a bitter smile, I'm embarrassed to be seen like this after so long. I'm shocked to see you here of all places. As I said that, Amy suddenly teared up, looking like she was about to cry. What's wrong? I asked in a hurry. But all she could say was, I'm sorry. Then I suggested, I'm staying at a hotel down the street tonight. Why don't you contact me after you finish? Let's talk for a bit. Amy just said, okay, and silently started making hot dog again. That night, I received a message from Amy, and we agreed to meet at a diner next to the hotel. When I arrived, Amy was already there, waving at me awkwardly. Sitting down, she seemed tense and kept looking down without saying a word. So, how have you been? I was worried since I hadn't heard from you in a while, I asked casually. Amy looked sad and said, I'm sorry. I guess this is my punishment for saying such terrible things to you, Dad. With that, she started to cry. Wondering what had happened, I decided to ask her about it. After leaving home, Amy had moved in with a man she was dating with the intention of marrying. He was 3 years older than her and was involved in music activities. Amy was originally a fan of his, and it seems like she had a big crush on him. However, he cheated on her with another woman, and Amy got dumped. Amy ended up spending a lot of money just to get by, and eventually ran out of savings. After being dumped by him, she couldn't focus on her job anymore and ended up quitting the company she worked for. After some time, she started working at a nearby supermarket and a hot dog stand to make ends meet. But even with that income, life was still a struggle. I was furious with that musician guy and thought about hitting him, but he had vanished, running from debt collectors, and no one knows where he is now. Amy said crying, "This is all my fault. I brought this upon myself." I told her, "What's done is done. Can't help it. There's a saying about youthful indiscretions. If you don't mind, why don't you come back home? It might be a bit easier for you there." Upon hearing this, Amy showed big tears in her eyes. "But Dad, it feels too convenient to rely on you only when I'm in trouble." Looking sad, Amy said this, and I told her, "Parents are there to be leaned on in tough times. You're my daughter, Amy, so feel free to depend on me as much as you need." Dad, thank you. I'll think about it," Amy replied, wiping her tears with a handkerchief. After that, we chatted about trivial things for a while before parting ways. As a final word, I told Amy, "You can come back home anytime." She smiled and nodded. A few months later, Amy returned home with her belongings. "I decided to come back," she said with a smile. Seeing her, I said, "Welcome back. I've been waiting for you." After that, Amy and I started living together again. It was awkward at first, but after a month, we got used to each other, and Amy even started making jokes. Her once thin body gradually became healthier. I was relieved. Since coming back, Amy has been cooking every day. Her chicken soup, in particular, is outstanding. It has a gentle flavor, somewhat reminiscent of Lisa's chicken soup, sometimes bringing tears to my eyes. Seeing me like that, Amy asked, laughing, "Is it so delicious that you're about to cry?" "Yeah, it's so good it makes me want to cry." Amy laughed heartily, saying, "What's that supposed to mean?" Watching Amy's smile, I truly felt glad she was getting better. After returning home, Amy got a job at a local factory. She worked hard at her job while also doing her best with the household chores. I was really proud of her. "Amy, making up for the time we were apart, took care of me in every way possible. Then, one day after 10 years into this life, Amy brought her boyfriend home. It seems he's her superior from the same workplace. He was 5 years older than Amy, a calm and kind-looking man. He greeted me politely, and I instantly felt that this man could make Amy happy. He even mentioned that he was considering marrying Amy. I told him, "Please take good care of Amy." Amy, blushing, said, "Dad, it's too early for that." About 6 months later, Amy was proposed to by him, and they decided to get married. I was a bit sad to see my daughter leave my side, but seeing her happy reassured me. Then, before I knew it, it was the day of the wedding. Amy asked me to walk her down the aisle, and there I was, arm in arm with my daughter, looking like a princess. As we walked, I was so nervous my mind went blank, but then Amy softly spoke to me. "Dad, I was happy because you were my father." Huh? When I glanced at my daughter's face, she was looking at me with a beautiful smile, just like Lisa in her younger days. With my vision blurred by tears, I managed to walk with her to the end and smiled at her. Then we took our seats at the reception hall. Looking around, I saw orange roses, my wife's favorite, decorated everywhere. In the center, my daughter, dressed in a pure white gown, was smiling happily. Then a staff member took the microphone and announced, "Now, the bride will read a letter to her parents." Amy stood up and began to speak, looking ahead. "To my mom in heaven, do you remember the promise we made before you passed away?" Huh? I looked up. "Mom, when I visited you in the hospital, you taught me how to make Dad's favorite chicken soup, other cooking recipes, and many other things. At that time, you made me promise to take care of Dad until I found someone special. I realized then that you wouldn't be with us much longer." I had no idea they had made such a promise. Amy had been bright every day, knowing that Lisa was going to pass away. Tears overflowed as I learned the truth after decades. I couldn't keep that promise right after Mom passed away. I'm sorry, but I realized Dad, although not good with words, is indeed the kindest and most loving person, just like Mom said. I now understand why Mom fell in love with Dad. Both Amy and I are in tears. "I love you so much, Dad." Her confession, choked with tears, filled my heart with overwhelming emotions. Then, looking ahead, Amy turned to gaze at me. "Dad, I'm getting married. Make sure to wash the laundry and not let it pile up. Put on your pajamas after you get out of the bath. Don't walk around naked, or you'll catch a cold." I watched my daughter, unable to speak through her tears. Then a staff member handed me the microphone, saying, "A few words from the father, please." "Amy, thank you for living with someone like me. I'm grateful. You're getting married now, so you can't cry like this. Smile, like you always do." Then I turned to address her husband. "My daughter is a great cook and a very kind person. Please take good care of her. Make sure she's happy." I asked so and heard a strong reply, "Yes, I promise." I had no regrets left. And so, the wedding ended successfully. I truly felt blessed to have been a father to my daughter. I was glad to have married Lisa, and happy to have been Amy's dad. I never knew about such a promise, Lisa, worrying about me until the very end. That's just like you. I sat in an empty room, speaking to my wife's photo. After the wedding, Amy moved in with her husband, but still came to my house regularly to help with various things. So, I never felt lonely. Seeing the happy couple always warmed my heart. I continue to wish for Amy's happiness and support her in my own way. And now, I'm excited every day, looking forward to meeting my soon-to-be-born grandchild.